welcome to Across the Aisle. We give you politics from a different point of view. My name is Saquon Jones, and I'm joined by my co-panelists, Javier David, Alicia DeGrosa, and Landon Days. Javier, we're going to start this first segment off with you as we discuss the budget crisis. Now, at some point, we have to realize that this country was built off of debt alone. I mean, I think we still actually owe France from financing the American Revolution. Why is this such an uproar right now?
This is an uproar because we are staring down the barrel of a cumulative $10 trillion. I mean, the number is mind-boggling to say out loud. But $10 trillion cumulative dollars in red ink for the next 10 years. We are at a inflection point. As many of you know, Standard & Poor's, which is a Wall Street rating agency, just this week determined that they were going to put the United States on what's called negative outlook, which is sort of the precursor to being downgraded and losing its AAA status. So there are ramifications. It means that we're going to pay more for our debt. The amount of debt that we actually own, the overhang, is simply not sustainable. And I think most people agree that there is a need for substantial reform, meaningful change to our entitlement spending, our priorities, the ways that we apportion money. As it's often said in Washington, Washington does not have a revenue problem. It has a spending problem. Just like any household is required to balance its books, Washington and the government must do the same. It is what responsible policymakers are supposed to do. And we are now at the point where the market is going to mete out a very severe punishment for the lack of discipline and for the lack of meaningful change that is required to bring about a lot of these changes in the budget.
Well, I mean, I'll send this either to you, Landon, or you, Alicia. But if you look at it from just an individual standpoint, let's just treat America as an individual. You have a person who has a huge credit card debt, student loans, car loans, all types of debt, and they file for bankruptcy. This necessarily forces them to sort of live within their means. Of course, it's a bad blemish on them, but it forces them to now say, I have to cut down on doing with the things. I'm looking at it from just an economic or a finance standpoint. How is this a bad thing? I mean, outside of the actual, just the mindset of it being, of America being downgraded credit-wise, how is this about a bad thing? Doesn't it force us or our government to live within our means going from now? Or
I mean, yes and no. Javier made a great point. If our credit score is downgraded, it's like having a bad credit. All of a sudden, instead of having a credit card at 8% interest rate, now you're paying 22%, which means our debt's actually gonna just
our debt services.
And that'll stop a person like America from actually asking for money at that point.
But it's one person. The problem is it's not one person. We're talking about 300+ million people, and in reality, as Americans, we're used to a certain lifestyle, we're used to certain things, and we don't want that to change. The paradigm shift that would happen if our economic system crashes due to this financial shift would be paramount since the 1920s, which it probably would double because we're already in an economic recession. Now, the reality is, I know people want to put blame on the current administration, but the reality, this is the accumulation of multiple administrations over the years. They showed a spike. Usually, budget spikes or decreases can be seen 10 years prior to what happened through decisions made. 10 years prior to now, we financed 2 wars that we could not afford, and all of a sudden our debt just, I think, went up almost 100% in that time span. So we need to stop going. We need to stop going to wars. We need to restructure our finances, like a bankruptcy would happen, and make some tough decisions. And that's just not going to be entitlements. It's not just about Medicaid or Medicare. We're also going to have to look at our military spending. We spend 10 times the amount of the top 10 countries in this world combined. We spend almost $700 million, not including the pay for Iraq and Afghanistan, on our military. We have to look there, Medicaid, Social Security, and people aren't going to like it, but eventually we're going to be forced.
I mean, I'll let you respond to that, but I mean, when Clinton was in office, Alicia, I mean, we were in a surplus. I mean,
the surplus. That wasn't a real surplus. He was including the Social Security money because that money is not supposed to be touched. That he included that into the numbers.
Okay.
That most people don't usually include into numbers. It was a fake surplus. That wasn't.
So you're telling me that all Democratic economists who agreed with the surplus at that time don't feel the same way when Clinton was out of office and then next thing you know Bush was there. Is that what you're telling me? Because I mean, after Clinton was there, it's been widely accepted that there was a surplus. The United States was in a surplus budget-wise.
Well, clearly there was a surplus.
You're saying, but just based off the fantastical numbers.
Gore's favorite word, lockbox. The lockbox money from Social Security. That's what that was including. That's not supposed to include.
Do we have a lot of money in Social Security now?
Do we have a lot of money in Social Security?
Is there any money in Social Security right now?
No,
basically,
actually,
there's none, right? But when Clinton was there was. But now there isn't any now.
No, but that's
in fairness to her. But the money, the lockbox money, is like having an IRA. Yes, you have. Yes, you have the money in the IRA.
We don't have.
You can't access it.
If you want to use that example, Landon, we don't have the IRA anymore. So when Clinton was there, there was an IRA.
But we were still. We were still spending at a deficit, but we did close the gap to a degree. Yes, but then 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, we blew the hatch off of it when we went to war. Literally, we blew the hatch off.
And I will agree that Bush spent a lot. Bush spent a lot on a lot of different things. It wasn't just the war; it was a lot of things.
The prescription drugs package also was tremendous debt to us because we did not pay for it.
Well, let me bring this back to you, Javier, because I mean we have a situation where we have the right, or either of you, we have the right who's talking about cutting Medicaid, Medicare, entitlements. I mean, we're in this position where we need the entitlements because of past administrations. So now you're saying that since President Obama's there, all of a sudden, we are to cut off people.
This is not all of a sudden. This is a conversation that has been taking place for the better part of the last decade. It actually began in earnest during the Clinton administration. His proposal to shore up Social Security was to take a portion of the Social Security proceeds and invest them in the stock market, which is an idea that never went anywhere. When George W. Bush entered office, he attempted to reform, as you may recall, in his second term, Social Security using private accounts. That too also fell prey to what is commonly referred to as the third rail politics, which is entitlement reform. The simple fact of the matter is we are in a position where these outlays are no longer sustainable. They're no longer affordable. We are now coming to the point where the vast majority of the baby boomers are set to retire, and the money that we are going to be, that we're basically responsible to them for, is a staggering sum that just simply doesn't exist. So one of the proposals, I think that this is demagogued in a number of different ways, but the proposals on the table require raising the retirement age, which is the appropriate thing to do given that
raising the retirement age. So not taxing the rich, but making someone who's 65 continue to wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning
at 68
and be at a job
is the our lifespan.
Really, that's what you're telling me.
Our lifespans are longer. 65.
So because I took care of myself. I mean, I'll let you respond.
My grandmother is 70 and she works.
You think that she's supposed to work at that age? As opposed to taxing someone who is rich,
and she is healthy and she's strong.
But even
let's not even talk about saying people have to work until a certain age. People are just generally working until a certain age. You spend 20 years in one career, and then you say, you know what, I'm bored with this. I start a new one. And people are working because they want to.
If I can add this, most retirees actually go out to work to supplement their income because it's simply not enough. They go out to work anyway.
So
they work
but
anyway.
you're going to. But the fact that we're in a budget crisis and we have a completely
because they're not affordable,
eligible entity that can be taxed.
They're no longer affordable.
Saquon, even if they have shown models of if we just tax the rich, even at an absurd number, it still doesn't cover the cost.
I don't. Hold on. But at the end of the day, a drop in the bucket eventually fills the bucket.
But it's not dropping the bucket if there's a hole. If there's a bigger hole in the end of the bucket. I mean, my father is 70 years old, and my father still works. If my dad lived off of his Social Security, he could not pay his mortgage that he has on his house.
Let's be clear. Let me address your dad and let me address Javier's grandmother, both whom are at a certain age where they should be relaxing. Now, I'm going to take a Republican stance, and that's not the role of the government to make sure that your dad or your grandmother have enough money to retire off of.
And you're absolutely
that's
right.
their
You're
responsibility.
Correct.
Now,
you are absolutely correct.
Now,
and the reforms that have been on the table previously were in fact a means to empower individuals to make these decisions on their own, to invest this money in the market, in other places, whereby they can earn a higher rate of return and take much more single-handed control over their finances.
All right, I mean, I'll let you conclude there, but I mean, just understand the fact that this country is built off of rich people who did not want to pay taxes. And that's why we revolted. And you're still adhering to the same sort of mentality that they had back in
against
17.
monarchy.
Who wanted to tax them, Javier? Who did not want to pay taxes at the end of the day?
Okay, but Social Security, like no one, not just people just in their right mind. No one should be relying on Social Security to take care of them. The government shouldn't be taking care of you in any stage of your life. And Social Security wasn't even created to take care of people at their. When Social Security was in place, retirement age was what, 62?
62.
And the life expectancy was what? 58. They were not expecting to actually pay for people to like survive off of it.
We're going to conclude that first session of Across the Aisle. We get politics from a different point of view. Please join us as we come right back. And welcome back to Across the Aisle. We give you politics from a different point of view. Once again, my name is Saquon Jones, and I'm joined by my co-panelists, Javier David, Alicia DeGrosa, and Landon Days. Landon, we're going to start this second segment off with you as we discuss Donald Trump. I feel like every single week we do this show, there's some new Republican savior that's supposed to come and overtake Obama. Last time it was Jeb Bush, it was Palin, it was Romney, it was Huckabee, and now we're here with Donald Trump. I mean, is this really, I don't want to call it a shy show, but how viable is this man come 2012?
I am praying to the Almighty himself that Donald Trump is the Republican presidential nominee, because nothing represents the Republican stance such as family values, such as Donald Trump, such as business ethics as Donald Trump, as financial responsibility like Donald Trump. Because, I mean, yes, he's been divorced 3 times. Yes, he's gone bankrupt 4 times and currently has 3 of his major parts of his industry going bankrupt.
Don't forget the airplane industry that he had.
In the airplane industry, or his casinos that went under, and he restructured over 3 different times. Yes, he was talking about concerns about where Obama was born, but I'm sure the American in Kansas, America, would love to hear his wife speak about American values and what it is to be in America, because she wasn't born in America. That's right. I have respect for Donald because, you know, the man is a successful businessman, though. And his father, who I have the utmost esteem for, because he was the innovator in developing Queens and Brooklyn and did a good job in some of the African-American, Latino areas at the time then. But as Donald said with the blacks, I think he's not really in touch with the real America. And where Obama is. I don't care what you say. He's a community organizer. He's seen the highs and lows. He's seen the poor and the rich, the uneducated and the educated. And Donald, who's going on this birther thing, which is beneath him, at least in my view, realizes that it's not going to be as easy to govern as it is to posture what he's doing right now.
I'll let either of you guys respond to that, but I mean, is this not disrespectful to your party? Like, every week there's just a different person?
No. There's the Republican field is wide open. It is a function of the fact that they did not win the executive branch in 2008. It's a tremendous groundswell of numerous candidates that think that they have a reasonable shot at winning the nomination. Personally, I think that there's a bit of a Donald Trump bubble going on. Donald Trump is nothing if not a master at self-promotion, at marketing himself, at grabbing attention and grabbing headlines. I think that the irony of that his candidacy is being promoted at a time when he's his television show is on, and all of this, the timing is a little bit too coincidental. I don't tend to believe that he